looking at trying to do some stuff in Milwaukee around.
I am what's between you and the end of your day, and that's definitely one of the disadvantages of going last in a long group like this. As well as, a lot of times, if you guys are in school right now, you go in a speech class and you have somebody super prepared before you, and you're like, crap, like they're like a tough act to follow, right? There's 13 tough acts that I now have to follow. On the other hand, I like to look at this like if this were a concert. I'm like the last, band. I'm headlining, basically. I'm headlining this thing, so pretty cool. So yeah, that's a little bit about me, but I kind of want to just talk to you guys today. I'll tell you a little bit about myself, and then I'm going to use 3 small vignettes based on people that I've served with in my time in the military who really inspired me to be a better leader, to be a better person, to be a hero in my own life, and have really led me to where I am today. And really what I'm going to kind of do is try and tie these things to you. I'm not really going to talk about battlefield heroism or anything like that. Really simple examples of everyday behaviors. In fact, Officer Mike Murphy brought up a great point. Everything you do has an impact. And that has been very true for me in my career and in my life. So up here you see this quote, Sergeant Mike Granny. You guys familiar with the show Band of Brothers? Negative. So like Saving Private Ryan, then they followed up with like an actual historical docudrama about the 101st Airborne during World War II. And this is a quote, and this is something that I find to be fairly commonplace in the military, and one of the things I love about serving is that we're all in it together. There's like a sense of camaraderie that you maybe don't necessarily find in the corporate business place or in school or anything else like that, but more often than not, the heroism that you see in the military is one of sacrifice, like we're there for each other, there for the guy next to you or the gal next to you. And so this is a quote from him that, you don't often find a military man or woman who really was like, yes, I was heroic, but they always know somebody who was. And so, once again, I'm not really going to talk too much specifically about combat heroism. I'm just going to talk about everyday life and what I've found in my 15 years as a National Guardsman. Background. So how many guys are still like high school age? Give me a show of hands. Cool. And of those of you with your hands up, how many guys struggle with your grades? All right, my people. You're my people. This is perfect because I graduated high school in 1999. I may not look, act, or dress my age. I still get carded every day at the liquor store. But I graduated in 1999 and with a 1.8 GPA. Barely graduated, as a matter of fact. I was every class, needed them all in order to not go to summer school. And really had no direction in my life and really just thought I was smarter than the system. If I can get an A on your test but never do homework and never show up, why should that have an impact on my grade? And then afterwards, I went to college for a little bit, tried Macomb Community College over on the east side of the state, and actually did worse there, and then realized I needed to kind of take a break and figure out what I want to do. My sister, who Mike mentions in the Navy still, I grew up living with her during the summers growing up, and at the time, she was stationed on the island of Guam, and she was like, hey, why don't you come out here for a year? And I was like, yes, sold. So I got to live, she was using her housing allowance to pay for a sailboat on tropical island. I got to live on the island of Guam for a year while I kind of found my feet, figured out what I wanted to do next. And I finally came around to the idea, despite being from a military family, I had always been convinced I would do it on my own. And I came around to the idea that I would join, and took the ASVAB, decided on the Air Force, and was locating signing paperwork to join the military the morning of September 11, 2001, Guam time, which was still the night of the 10th here mainland. And told my parents this is what I decided to do. I'm going to work on my degree while starting in the military, and et cetera. Besides, what are the chances the war is going to break out anyways? And then 5 hours went by, and the first plane hit the World Trade Center, and the world changed. I was able to come home to the state of Michigan and join the Air National Guard, kind of thinking I would do a week and a month and 2 weeks a year. 15 years later, I've been in an active duty status my entire time. I've just basically been able to build a career out of being in the Guard, and it has been awesome. Honestly, the best decision I've ever made, and it was whimsical. It was basically like, yeah, I guess I'll give that a shot, and it's worked out to where I am today. And so, a couple things I want to tell you about. 3 short stories, 3 different people. When I first joined, there was a guy by the name of Lieutenant then, separated as a major, Dave Wright. He was 34 and a half years old when he decided to join the service right after 9/11. He had always wanted to be in the military, and had never had, life had gotten in the way. Never had the time to do it or whatever. He'd become a very successful chief financial officer at a company, and he decided, no, this is something that I told myself I was going to do. So he walked away from a very lucrative civilian career and decided to serve, and this was my very first officer in charge, essentially. And so he kind of taught me something before I even met him. I heard that, wait, this guy came in just because he really wants to be here that bad. And so that's this here. If there's something that you want to do, whether it's military service, whether it's pursuing a dream of any kind. No matter how far down the road you get, there's always an exit. You can always turn around, loop back, start over. And the new me, the new military me, had finally been put in an environment where I was not afforded the opportunity to screw around. And finally realized, oh, if I just do the homework and apply myself, I actually get great grades. Weird how that works. But I had become very comfortable with this idea that, like, hey, this is what I'm doing, I'm very good at it. And I went in for my first performance feedback review with Lieutenant Wright, and he sat me down, and I was kind of expecting, like, you're doing a great job, keep it up, buddy. And he sat me down, he handed me my enlisted performance report, and with zero hesitation, he's like, you're an underachiever. I'm like, that was not how I expected this feedback session to go. He was like, no, everybody next to you tries harder, works harder, things come simply to you, and so you rest on your laurels, and you're willing to just skate through. And he said basically, look, I understand, I'm not asking you to be an overachiever. Nobody likes an overachiever, brown nose, essentially. But what I want you to do, what I challenge you to do, is every day you wake up, you come to work, and you just achieve. Find something that you want to do and accomplish it, no matter how small that task is, or how vast, or whether it's 40 steps down the line before you finish, or it's a very simple thing that you can do today. Show up every day and achieve. Moving on from there, the sister that I mentioned, Renee, she's 12 years older than I am. I'm the youngest of 5. And big gap. They had 4 kids. They wanted 4 kids. And then 7 years later, I showed up. Surprise. And my sister Renee has a great story. When I was 16 years old, I was living with her down in Tampa, Florida. And she was going to, Panama City, Florida. She was going to the Navy dive school. They had just recently opened up the U.S. Navy dive school. It's essentially underwater explosive ordnance disposal, like the movie Men of Honor, where they put on the big suit and they go deep underwater and they explode old mines and things like that. And they just made that available for female service people, and she decided she wanted to go. And in that school, she was top of her class academically, top of her class in every practical application, in the pool, out in the water, kicking butt, taking names. But she could not run. She'd never been a runner. My family, we grew up swimmers. And so she was marginal every time they would do a weekly run test. She would barely squeak by, or just be below the bar, or just over the bar. And that happened 3 times to her. And at that time, and still to this day in the military, you do still find vestiges of differences between the way the genders are treated. And so they were really looking for any way to wash her out of that school, and they used it, despite the fact that she was the best they had. She was a woman, and so they booted her, simply because she couldn't run, which, how often are you going to run, at depth, underwater? Never. So they washed her out, and she said, damn it, that's never going to happen to me again. And so from a person who could barely make the run time through Navy dive school, she made that her mission, made that her favorite, and has become an annual marathon runner now later in life. So she found something that got in the way of her achieving her goals, and she said, never going to happen to me again, and then used that fire of being denied what she really wanted to achieve to basically turn around and say, the thing that I'm not good at, I'm going to make that the thing that I'm the best at, and then you're never going to get that. You're never going to use that against me ever again. Find your weakness, make it your strength. And finally, I have a friend by the name of Josh Moore. I deployed with him in 2005, and basically wet behind the ears, a couple new airmen, my second trip to Iraq, as a matter of fact. And we hit it off, had a great time, and stayed in contact. We were there for about half a year, and then came home, remained in contact. He was in the Arkansas Guard, I was in Michigan, then Florida, then DC, and all over. And so for the most part, over the last several years, 10 years, 11 years running, most of it was just through social media presence, the occasional happy birthday, or how you doing, or a little funny comment, or shared picture, something like that. No real contact, but we stayed in touch. And 3 years ago, I, as mentioned, took all the respect and credibility that came with all those enlisted rank stripes and turned that in and started over as a butter bar lieutenant. And went through officer training school, came out on the far side, and started to go back through all the training. As a career Intel guy, had to go back through Intel school and all that. And he reached out to me in the middle of September, out of the blue, having not heard from him in quite some time. And he just wanted to tell me, hey, dude, I know we haven't talked in a while. But I just want to tell you, like, he follows the things that I've been accomplishing, because I'm very Facebook. Like, that's basically my photo album. So everything that I'm doing is on there. And he's like, I just wanted to reach out and tell you. And this guy, by the way, is a Bronze Star recipient who has, since I've known him, deployed over and over and over and over again. And he said, dude, the leader that you've become is a guy that I would follow every day. And he's like, and that's basically the highest compliment I know that I can give anybody. And I just wanted to reach out and tell you that. And that was a dream of mine. When I commissioned, I thought, I have this impact as a senior enlisted member that I can, help people. And if I commission, my reach will grow. And I can have a positive impact on more people at a greater rate as an officer than as an enlisted guy. And my dream one day was to find people like how Major Wright was to me, how my sister has been to me my whole life, and how a number of other great NCOs and officers have the influence that they've had on me, as I wanted to do that for other people. And I had in the back of my mind, not that I would ever beg for that kind of compliment, but that's the kind of thing you really hope to hear someday, that dude, you're doing great. 3 weeks later, Josh lost his life. And that's the only contact I'd had with him since 2005, was just him calling me just because he wanted to tell me, dude, you're doing great. And I really, that strikes me in a way that every day you don't know when it's your last day. And every day you can reach out to somebody and tell them something that's going to be beneficial to them or helpful, or even, honestly, maybe not like a compliment, like, hey, you're doing great, but like, hey, you're an underachiever. Be honest, whether it's, smoke up your butt or look you dead in the face and tell you you're screwing up and you need to fix it. Everything you say to people has an impact, and you need to say it. If there's something you want to do, whether it's follow another dream, start your life over, do something new, say something to someone, or just be away, be the best version of yourself that you possibly can be, you need to do it today, because tomorrow is not a promise. It might not be there for you. And that's really, to me, those three kind of, like I said, three short little vignettes tie pretty easily. Those could not necessarily be military stories. It's just, these are things that the impact that all of us have on each other on a day-to-day basis that I think can carry forward. And by God, I hope, I just still dream that as these people, I think heroism to me is people who inspire you to be the best version of yourself that you can be, people you want to aspire to be like. And hopefully, through my continued service, I can be that to somebody else. And I mean, honestly, that's what this is all about, right? Every single one of you guys can go out today and be that to somebody as well. So that's what I got. And it's the end of your day, so thanks.
The Hero Roundtables are the global events that ask the question, what is a hero? You've just seen one hero talk. To find more and join the conversation, visit our website or social media.